Good morning, folks. I'm Alan Saunders. Welcome to another episode of Steelers Morning Rush on Steelers Now. This is our new daily 5-minute podcast as a companion piece to my Steelers Afternoon Drive with Zachary Smith. So I appreciate you all coming in, getting up early, and talking a little football with me. Today we're going to talk about Beanie Bishop and what makes him special or different compared to the rest of the Steelers rookies. If you missed the news from late last night, the Steelers released veteran defensive back Josiah Scott a bit unexpectedly. Scott had been the team's starting slot corner as we entered spring practices back at OTAs. Beanie Bishop passed him over that time, and I believe Graylin Arnold passed him as well. These first 4 days of training camp, it's been Bishop with the ones, Arnold, and then Scott sort of rotating in with the 2s and the 3s. So my inkling, I don't have any hard information here, but I believe that the Steelers were simply just granting his request to be released at this point. Let him hope that he can catch on with another team where he feels like he has a better shot of staking a claim to some playing time. But this is interesting because we hear from Mike Tomlin often about how rookies are going to have to earn their playing time, that he's going to be cautious about it. And yet you have an undrafted rookie in Beanie Bishop who's basically been taking first team reps from the very first day of training camp. So what's the difference, right? Last year, Joey Porter Jr. didn't start until the middle of the season. Kenny Benton didn't start until it was the middle of the season, and there was an injury. Broderick Jones didn't start until the middle of the season. So why is Beanie Bishop going to start now? And those guys were not able to. And let's be honest, this year's rookie class, Troy Fautanu not starting right now. Zach Frazier not starting right now. Roman Wilson, Payton Wilson not starting right now. Well, it seems inconsistent on the surface, but it's actually not. What Mike Tomlin was asked about this, and he said, I can't take things on a case-by-case basis, but really it's about the player and their level of readiness. When you look at Beanie Bishop was a 6th-year college player. He will turn 25 this season. So compare that to someone who came out at 21 or 22, and that is like an entire whole career, another college career's worth. Beanie Bishop played more than twice as many seasons in college football as Broderick Jones did, and like 7 or 8 times as many games in college as Broderick Jones did. And so he's a very different level of experience. Now, Beanie Bishop was undrafted. He's probably not as good as Broderick Jones or Troy Fautanu, but neither are the players that were holding that roster spot before. Josiah Scott has 30 games, all with the Eagles. He's bounced around the league. He's been cut a bunch of times. This was actually his second stint on the Steelers, compared to a guy like Dan Moore, who has 60-some-odd starts as the Steelers left tackle, or Nate Herbig, who's played 40 or 50 games in the NFL as a regular player. And so it's about the readiness of the player and the quality of the players that are in front of them. They're just ranking the depth chart. It's not any more complicated than that. Right now, they feel like Beanie Bishop is the best slot corner they have on the team, and they don't feel that way about any of the rest of the rookies compared to the rest of the players on the squad at their position. The other advantage for Bishop is that you can actually evaluate cornerback play starting with day one of OTAs. A lot of people say it's only been 4 days. Yeah, well, these first 4 training camp practices are essentially identical to the 10 OTA practices and the 3 minicamp practices this team already has. So everything that you could do, you could evaluate, you could fairly look at from these first 4 training camp practices also applies to those first 13 sessions as well. So, it took 13 sessions for them to say, look, Beanie Bishop is just better than Josiah Scott, and 4 more for Josiah Scott to likely say, I'm just going to look somewhere else because I'm not passing this guy. However, on the offensive line, if you're a linebacker, and you haven't been able to put the pads on yet, it's very, very difficult to fairly evaluate your progress against your peers. So when the pads go on today, if they go on today, it's raining right now this morning here at my place. I'm not sure if we're going to have practice today, but scheduled to. And scheduled to be the first practice in pads. When the pads go on, then the Steelers will be able to get a much better read on where guys like Troy Fautanu and Zach Frazier are in comparison to the guys that are holding that job right now, to see when, if, and when they should take them over. And I do believe those guys will take them over. I still believe those guys will earn those starting spots, but they're going to have to earn them, just like Beanie Bishop did. And it's not inconsistent to say that he's earned it first, even though he is an undrafted free agent and some of these other guys are high draft picks. the other part of this is, during the season, there is a big difference between being on the first team and being on the second team. The second team during the season basically doesn't practice. You are just the scout team. There's only 1.5 teams practicing on a lot of days because a number of injured guys or banged up guys or veterans are resting or whatever. Here in training camp, there's not like this hard difference between the first team and the second team. Like, you're basically out there against the same guys. In fact, if you're talking about, a lineman, like if you're on the first team or the second team, you should expect to see a bunch of all the same guys. Like, the Steelers are rotating their defensive linemen around. They're not just sort of beholden to that, like, okay, now all the good competition is gone, and now if you're the second team, you're only going to play against undrafted rookies. It's just not how it works. So, Troy Fautanu has seen plenty of TJ Watt, and Zach Frazier has seen plenty of Keanu Benton, and that is probably going to continue regardless of whether they're taking first team reps or second team reps for right now. So I don't think it's anything to be concerned about that the Steelers' top draft picks are not playing with the first team, and I don't think it's inconsistent for Tomlin to have this approach where rookies need to present that they are the best option for the team. That is the way he has always done it, and just because Beanie did it before everybody else, it's unexpected. It's unprecedented for an undrafted rookie. Went back and talked to some guys who have been on the beat a lot longer than me. Was talking to Jim Wexell the other day. He thinks maybe Will Johnson, a fullback in the early 2000s, might have done it. Before that, probably Donnie Shell was the last guy. And there was a strike happening when he first got into the league. So his first practice, there were no vets. It was just young guys. And Shell was an undrafted free agent in 1974. Still probably an upset to be a starter, but it's a big deal what Beanie Bishop is doing, and he's playing really well. But yeah, it's just a part of the process, and it's the same process that's applied to everybody else. It's not different for him. I hope that clears up some confusion. Let me know if there's anything else you want me to talk about here on these Morning Rush shows, and I'll be back this afternoon with Steelers Afternoon Drive, myself and Zachary Smith. If there's a practice in between, like there's supposed to be, I also have a practice report for you from St. Vincent College. Thanks for listening. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see you later.